This is Tom Moyes of the World Bank's AgriFin program. We're here in Mexico City, beautiful Marriott Reforma, and we're kicking off our 2012 study tour of Mexican agricultural and rural finance. Got about 20 participants from all over the world joining us here in Mexico City. Today, which is November 12th, we're starting with a brief seminar, and we're going to be going through the experience of some of the key Mexican rural finance institutions. We're very lucky today to have the Director General of FIRA, which is a very unique government-owned basically fund that promotes and supports rural finance in Mexico in many unique and interesting ways. His name is Licenciado Rodrigo Sanchez Mujica. And what will follow are his comments to some of our questions.
You talked a lot during your presentation about the model, about how you are looking at all those elements of risk management to make a decision on how you can actually lend sustainably to agricultural clients. What do you think can be replicated or copied in other countries, maybe where they're not so advanced or haven't got all of those elements in place? What are the key things that other countries could learn?
Well, that's a very good question and complicated because we've been building on this model over the years. 10 years ago, we didn't have anything of this. We didn't have insurance. We didn't have a hedging. I think the first thing, we have to work with the supply side of the equation. We have to strengthen the producers' capacity to ask for a loan and to repay it.
Yes.
For me, the technical assistance is critical. I think it's that part could be easily adopted, replicated, since there are a lot of institutions that work with technical assistance, research centers, universities. I think the success is to really to build the network.
Yes. But one thing that I learned when I came to Mexico a few years ago with another client was how important, the importance that you place on the technical package that's provided to the producer. And in fact, we have a lot of our AgriFin partners who they do lend money to farmers, but the farmer more or less determines the technical package, or maybe they provide some advice or input. But I think what FIRA has done is really standardized the technical packages across many kinds of crops. And I think that's an important innovation that FIRA has brought to the market.
Yes, I think the success, the key is to have an expertise inside the institution. Because for the farmer has multiple options. Some of them not adequate to the weather or to the soil or to the region, mainly based on what the sellers of the inputs are telling them. So they need like an outside opinion, and FIRA is most appreciated for having let's say, a more objective opinion on the most adequate technological package.
Yes.
And what do you think are the key skills that an agricultural lending officer requires to be able to both work with a client but also adequately assess risk?
Most of our people have a rural background.
I think that's useful.
Recently we're incorporating more and more capacities, because agriculture is not only about producing. More and more is about selling.
Yes.
About information on prices, on markets, and what happens after the harvest.
Right.
Sometimes it's more important than what happens during the crop process.
Right. That raises a good issue about supply chain and commodity supply chain finance. And you were mentioning today in your presentation the importance of the United States as a market for Mexico. how critical is the linkage to the U.S. market for Mexican producers in terms of improving the quality and the quantity of their production?
Critical, a very small fraction of Mexican producers export.
Yes.
The relationship between the both markets is more and more important year after year, and not only in produce and final goods, but also in inputs.
Yes.
You can see how all the main producers of seeds, fertilizers, machinery in Mexico are from the U.S. More and more farmers are looking at the external market, mainly the U.S., because of the proximity and the relationship is very, very wide.
But do you see, is there a kind of trickle-down effect from these high value-added, highly efficient export farmers? Is there some trickle-down or positive impact or effect on the poorer, smaller farmers, or do you see sort of two tiers in the Mexican agricultural economy now? One capable of exporting, and the other sort of basically staying where they've been for the past 10, 20, 30 years and not getting ahead?
It's also changing because typically, well, we're talking here about fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
Mainly. There was a broker in the U.S. that used to buy production here in Mexico. More and more, some Mexican producers are establishing their own companies, import companies in the U.S. And also, some retailers are buying directly from the producers in Mexico. The large wholesalers,
Costco,
Walmart, and other chains are buying directly in Mexico strawberries or the berries or asparagus or onions.
yeah.
And that, I think that's beneficial for both parties. Now it's common to see buyers from small markets in Chicago, Los Angeles, or Dallas in the fields in Mexico.
Right.
One question. I know that you do long-term financing as well for agricultural investment. One thing we always notice is that that's always the hardest financing to do in agriculture. What are your learnings, or what could you suggest to people who want to do more long-term financing? What are the kind of mechanisms you found that facilitate that?
We, as a development bank, we try to foster long-term financing. That's not the case. Right now, about 80% is working capital financing that we have to renew on a yearly basis. That has a very high transactional cost. I'm not convinced that that's the best way to foster development in the agricultural sector, but I think it has to do with building the proper mechanisms, also trust, confidence from both parties, from the banks and from the producers. They have to change a little bit the mentality in a more longer term perspective.